Did anyone know this printer was coming out? Did anyone know it is out? I saw no launch or fanfare for this machine, and I only spotted it when I heard about the upcoming Mono 4 series of printers, and at that time I was browsing the website and caught this in an errant corner. I reached out to my Anycubic contact regarding all of them, and heard nothing back. Whatever the case, I feel it's at least a suggestion of either mismanagement or a lack of understanding of their own machine's value, because this is probably Anycubic's current best product offering. Hi, I'm Ross, and this is FauxHammer Videos. So yeah, in lieu of them sending out this printer, I just bought it so I could bring you relevant content about it. But I did get this cool free 3D printer shaped speaker with it, so there's something. However, because this basic M7 printer now exists, it also means I need to go back and redo my M7 Pro versus Saturn IV Ultra video, to now include the Saturn IV and this M7 as a full 4-way head-to-head of directly competing printers. Or maybe I'll just do the normal Saturn IV versus this. What would you prefer? Let me know in the comments. The basic Anycubic M7 is a sexy machine. I like the look of it, but I've said many times grey and orange are my colours. They're the ones I selected for my own branding, so I'm always happy to see them on products. Unboxing is as easy as it can be. You just slide the printer out on a desk and remove the happy foam. Love this style or hate it, but it seems that gone are the days of Anycubic's cheaper looking affairs of yellow and blue casings. Now we have a rather neutral colourway with a black lid. I certainly think this is a more professional looking product than what we've seen from them before. This lid is a lift-off lid, and it's got a couple of gaps in the back, but I'll come back to those later. Ports-wise, you've got an RJ11 port on the back for an optional resin feed pump, and next to this is a port for the Wi-Fi antenna. And again, I'm going to come back to Wi-Fi functionality shortly as well. The machine's got an internal power transformer with the power socket on the rear next to the mains rocker switch. Also on the rear is a faceplate which covers a port for an extraction hose. This channel can vent fumes from the inside of the machine when the lid's on, but this hose outlet looks to be some kind of proprietary connector due to the recess catchers around the opening, but I've got no idea what device we should or could connect to it, and as far as I can tell, Anycubic haven't told us of one. The USB port is on the right side at the front, which I like. And these M7s also have a secondary power button below the screen, which you actually need to hold in order to power on and power off the printer. I didn't realise this at first and thought my printer wouldn't turn on when I was tapping it several times. Inside the machine, we've got an advertised 14K display, which, again, isn't 14K. The resolution is 13,320 by 5120. I've got a video called 12K printers are irrelevant to explain how this isn't 14K. If you're absolutely brand new to resin printing, watch the whole video. But if you've been around a bit, skip to about 7 minutes in. The beginning is just me covering every possible angle you could be considering this from to help every absolute beginner that I can. The printing build area of this machine is 223 by 126 millimeters, with a build height of 230 millimeters. And like with any printer, if you want to know if this is big enough for your prints, just download any of the slicers for free, add the printer, and drag your prints in. You can virtually test the build volumes of pretty much any printer by doing this. The build plate's got a really nice laser etched surface and a taper on the top. Now if you leave this a few minutes after a print, most of the resin should flow off and back into the vat, but I'm impatient, so often during reviews I'll scrape it off to save time. This has a solid grip on the handle and connects to the Z-arm with a large bolt. And this Z-arm has pressure sensors in it used to detect pressure on the plate. This can, and does, and it does it quite well, detect obstructions, resin level, and its most strongly advertised feature is automatic leveling, or as the Anycubic website says it, leveling free. But in case you don't know, I've got to alert you, and I say it in every video, this is the same absolute bollocks that most brands are spouting. The printer is not leveling free at all, it's not auto leveling. What it is, there's springs behind the LCD which can compress when the plate presses on it. But even when the plate and screen are parallel under pressure, the screen position isn't locked here. So if the plate isn't level when you get it, as soon as the bed lifts again, the screen will return to its non-parallel position. So all it does automatically is detect when the plate is in the 0 position. That's it. If the bed's unlevel, you need to level it. Now, to adjust the leveling, you need to unscrew the 4 bolts on the side of the plate's arm, send the bed to the 0 location, which is the bottom, and tighten the bolts as you hold the screen flat. Now, I trusted Anycubic had leveled this for me, but after my first test print showed me I had poor adhesion on the back edge, I had to re-level, and I did this with the resin in, which is messy, but it's doable. Moving down, the Z rail has a basic lead screw and 2 linear rails. Now, when it comes to the vat, there's something I really like. It can hold a whole 1,000 gram bottle of resin in here with room to spare, and I personally feel this should be a basic requirement of all vats on all 10-inch printers. However, on the flip side, the pour spout is terrible, and resin just runs down and under the vat itself, which means messy and cleaning. One of the most common questions have in printers, and it's still quite a polarizing debate, is the type of release film that is used in the vat. Now, not only is this film ACF, but according to Anycubic's website, this isn't just any ACF, this is improved ACF. But improved in what way? Does it reduce the bloating issue we've seen before? Does it stop the horizontal lines on prints? Well, let's talk about that when we see the print results. When it comes to additional features of this machine, there is basically one. You get a USB powered air filter which plugs in inside the chamber, and this does cover the air extraction vent grate on the surface of the printer. But that's okay, because you surely wouldn't extract air and try and filter it inside the machine at the same time, so it makes sense that it's one or the other. But this plugs in where the M7 Pro has a resin pump, and that automatic auto feed unit is actually available and works with this printer as a cheap extra if you want it. But that resin pump is also why the lid of this printer has a big hole in it. The resin pump actually aligns with that hole and fills the gap. Here you have a gap, which I was planning on making a complaint about until I spotted a stick-on cover that you actually get in the box. Now, on the other side of the lid, there is still a small circular hole, and this looks like it's for a power cable, which makes sense, because it'd be perfect to install Anycubic's Heat and Pure unit, which we first saw with the M5S Pro that also had that hole in the lid. Again, this is a decent, cheap add-on. It's just without this hole is just a hole with no cover. Stick some blue tack or something in it. I do need to quickly mention the case fan, which comes out the right side of the unit, because just like the M7 Pro, this unfortunately is one of the louder resin printers that I have. Now, moving on to the UI, I've got to say again, this is good. I really like Anycubic's UI. They've stepped this up again since the M5S, and it's decent here too. It's mostly well translated, you'll understand everything, and it's got quick access to your different control sections down the left hand side. The readout during prints is fairly decent, though I personally prefer a UI to show remaining time large enough so that I can see it across the room, but the progress bar is just about visible enough. You can do things like edit numerous print settings on the fly, so let's say you've got a print issue and you know a quick setting change could fix it, there's no need to reslice, just clean out your bed and print the thing again, but change the settings on the printer. It's a handy feature to have. And it's nice that there's even a monitor you can access showing force detection. Now, this doesn't really help you to look at, but I guess it's at least a good way to visualize how the printer can detect potential adherence failures. Whilst using it though, I have had a few issues where the screen doesn't register certain button presses, leading me to having to press it repeatedly and sometimes quite hard just to get a few small things to register. Now, the slicer for this, which by default is Anycubic Photon Workshop, but you can use pretty much any other, Photon Workshop is coming on leaps and bounds. I can't remember if it was this or Anycubic's FDM slicer I once called poor to the point that Anycubic are just not good enough developers to make their own app, but I should really eat my hat because this is slowly becoming fairly solid, and considering I always prefer to use whatever default slicer comes with any printer, I've got no issues using or now even recommending this one. But I'll probably still be doing my supports in Lychee. See my how to print miniatures and how to support miniatures videos for more information on that. Even if you're not doing miniatures, again, miniatures are so small and detailed that the process should be sound on pretty much anything that you want to support. I also need to call out that since my last M7 review, the Wi-Fi functionalities had an update too. When I reviewed the M7, I could only upload my prints to the cloud and then go to the printer to download them and print them. But now I can send and start prints remotely and even monitor the progress in Anycubic's app. And the phone app is improving too, with a cleaner UI and handy notifications. The printer seems to also offer live progress updates on iOS, but the one time I actually watched this, I woke up the next morning to find out that these were completely out of sync. But I'm only pointing this out. I'm not actually upset and won't whinge too hard about a one-off glitch. I like the app. Now then, print quality. I started off by printing out 8 exposure tests using Anycubic's multi-exposure RERF feature, which is the resin exposure rangefinder. I've got a separate video explaining how to use this. Well, I've recorded it anyway, and I'll get it out as soon as brands stop releasing printers at the end of the bloody year. Once that video's up, I'll stick a link in the description for anyone who wants to know how to use the RERF feature, because it's useful, it's just a bit janky and weird. Anyway, I started this at 1 second per 20 micron layers, and this was the print that failed that I mentioned earlier. I'd also noticed that 1 second appeared a little overexposed. So after leveling, I changed this to start at 0.25 seconds per layer, and when using frozen hyperfine, it was still able to print that test. Now, when I look at my tests, between 0.75 seconds and 1 second is probably the sharpest I'll get, but we can see from the lines at the bottom of this test, both are filling the gap still, which suggests to me printer bloat. Now, for anyone unclear on how to read this test, again, check out my video on how to print miniatures. But here, because I've got an equal count of posts and holes on the left-hand side, the exposure is balanced. But these gaps being filled in the lines at the bottom is telling me that the prints are bloated when compared to similar sized printers. The question I'm now left with is this the screen or the ACF film? Now, because I've already done the M7 Pro review and swapped the ACF there with PFA and run these exposure tests, we can clearly see that with the same resin and the same screen, but by swapping to PFA film, we get sharper prints. So once again, and I'm getting kind of sick of saying this and getting crap for it in the comments when people provide no evidence other than you're wrong, ACF reduces the detail of prints. Again, it's not massive, but it is there. It exists. This is a fact that I'm looking at, because if I literally keep everything the same and swap ACF with PFA film, the prints are sharper. I don't understand how I could be wrong here, but I could be wrong. So please, if you have contrary evidence, show me. Yes, the quality of the prints with ACF still look great. I'm just saying, if you want the absolute sharpest prints this printer can do, ACF is not the way. Oh, and I need to fit it in somewhere because, and this will become more relevant in a future video, it's worth noting that anti-aliasing works, and like I said, that'll become more relevant when I do comparison videos of this printer to similar ones from other brands, so make sure to keep an eye out for those. Now, when it comes to speed, Anycubic hasn't included this in their tech specs for this machine, but there is one small graphic on the page for it which says 150 millimeters an hour with 100 micron layers tested in Anycubic lab. Now, the M7 Pro is stated to have 170 millimeters an hour for, again, 100 micron layers. And I'll just take their word for it. But not only is 100 microns a stupid metric to advertise, because I know very few people who would print at this layer height, considering it's double what most people call standard and 5 times thicker than what I used, but also the way Anycubic are able to advertise fast speeds is with less viscous high-speed resins and ACF film, which we've just shown reduces print quality a little. I personally just don't care about printers' speeds here. I mostly print stuff overnight, so when I wake up, most prints are done faster means it'll be done earlier in the night. I'm still not going to get to it till I wake up the next morning. And I'm not alone in this. Many people out there, I would say most people out there, are the same. Don't get me wrong, speed is a nice feature to have, but it's just not for me when it comes at any cost of quality. And if you want quality from this machine, then, as we've shown, you need to swap the ACF film for PFA film. But then it becomes just as fast, or more specifically just as slow, as any other normal printer on the market. So again, when it comes to speed in this case, yes, it can be fast, and out of the box it is fast if you use the right resin. I just personally don't care to push this as a valid comparative metric because it comes with too much of, or too many buts. The big one is fast but lower quality. And if you're happy with lower quality, I'm assuming you want to do rapid prototyping, in which case maybe look at an FDM printer. I don't know, I just think this way of doing speed is very, very niche and not everybody needs it. But if you aren't so fussed and you want this speed and are happy with the quality it delivers, that's great, get one of these. All in all, I do think this is a decent machine, and I'm actually excited to compare this to the M7 Pro, which will be one of my next videos. So make sure to hit like, subscribe, and watch out for a future video so you can check that out. And once I've done that, I'm going to be comparing both of these to the Saturns as well, so watch out for that one too. I think Anycubic really have stepped up their game this time around. I just think maybe they've been trumped by other brands, but these are good machines. I personally think it would have been smarter to release this one with PFA film, then we'd have the M7 for quality and the M7 Pro for speed. But you could always do what people did with the M5 series, get a second VAT, then you have the option for both speed and quality at hand if one of those VATs is PFA and one of them is ACF. And you don't need to look for or buy a PFA VAT, just buy PFA film and replace the ACF film with PFA. But yeah, I think this is a solid machine, and it's got some great modern features like Wi-Fi and an app to monitor progress. I do like that, I find it handy, and it's where other brands are lacking. And the pressure detection here is pretty good too. If this printer's speaking your language, grab one, but if you do, I'd appreciate you using my affiliate links in the description below before your purchase. Yes, I'll make a commission, that's at no cost to you, but considering I'm not paid to write my reviews, and I've turned down the offer of payments to write reviews, and in this case, have even paid for the printer so I could do the review, that affiliate link click helps massively. All I ask for is your trust in me, and in return, I have no more than my faith in your support. So thank you for that, and thank you for watching. The biggest shout out, as always, goes to our members who are on screen now. Please consider joining them to get your name up in lights, early access, exclusive update videos, and Discord roles. Until next time, Karen, why did you do that, Karen? FauxHammer out.